This
All right. I think we're good.
So welcome everyone to the River Management Roundtable. I'm Risa Shimoda, the Executive Director of the River Management Society, and we are here for you. We're going to hear about how one organization is removing barriers to outdoor life experiences in a way that maybe will be inspiring for folks who are here. So our guest who you'll hear from in a minute is Chris Gedden from St. Louis, and he's the Thrive Outside Program Manager at River City Outdoors. I'm Risa, and Angie is joining me, the Training Center Coordinator. Angie, why don't you take it? I'm going to mute myself because I'm in a noisy place.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Angie Furman here, the River Training Center Coordinator with RMS. Just real quickly, just wanted to welcome everyone to this River Management Roundtable. Each month, RMS hosts these virtual conversations. And we're really here to have some peer-to-peer sharing and learn from each other through these conversations, through kind of like an open forum type of environment here. So, thank you. We do these twice a month on the second and the fourth Tuesday. Right now, this is the fourth Tuesday, and we're looking at um, some less technical aspects of river management and maybe some more social aspects related to river management. Just real quick before we get in to our presenter and have Chris introduce himself, I just wanted to share a few quick group norms and agreements, really just around making sure that we're listening, that we're being present, and being respectful of each other, contributing to the process. Speak for yourself, not others. If you've been to these roundtables before, I'm sure you've seen this slide before. So I'm not going to spend too much longer on that. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris to go ahead and introduce himself and take us through today's topic.
Okay, so yeah, like she said, my name is Chris Gedden. I'm with the River City Outdoors. We're part of the Thrive Outside initiatives. If you're not familiar, Thrive Outside is basically through the Outdoor Foundation has set up about 13 cities across the country, and we're all at various stages of our existence. Um, but we are in our about eighth month of me being working with River City. Prior to me coming to River City, we the conversation was already happening. So River City has probably been around about a year and a half, I'd say. Um, as far as I'm concerned, Chris Gedden, I worked for the YMCA for about 14 years, and then I went to the city of St. Louis where I managed the recreation department. So this is really just a great extension. I've worked in the city of St. Louis for about 25 to 30 years. So the relationships that I've made over that time, I've managed to continue, and it's really served me well in this position and in others. Risa, are you doing the slides or can I do the slides? Oh, good, good. So why are we here today? And I'm not going to read this all. We can all read it, and I think Risa can make the deck available to you. Um, it's good for us, and it's just something that we as St. Louis, and I'm going to speak real intentional about St. Louis. We don't have a real thriving outdoor culture like, say, a Colorado or a San Diego. And when I name some of these names, I'm naming other cohorts, other groups that have thrive outside. Um, that's one of the things that we have to outdoor River City Outdoors, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but our network of providers and other people that we work with, we need to really be, again, using the word intentional about how we move and what barriers we can remove. You know, one of the big questions is why? Why don't we have a good culture of outdoor recreation? Well, some of the barriers are as easy as transportation, and lack of access to equipment, and some of them are a little bit more um, seated in uh, culture and diversity. We'll use that term. Um, Also here in St. Louis, and I'm sure it happens everywhere, but some of the bigger non-for-profits don't necessarily work together real well. And I can speak to that a little bit later. Um, but if you look at the very last thing is what I'm speaking to. Um, we here in St. Louis face some of the most systemic challenges that are rooted in cultural and socioeconomic divisiveness, and we have for years. And it's no longer the elephant in the room; it's just in the room. Um, and having these and other conversations is what's going to remove a lot of those barriers. And I'm going to be point blank. So when I was with the Y, I also managed the aquatics department. And one of the biggest things is that uh, it's not normal necessarily to see a large group of African Americans that can swim or swim well, or that are even confident about um, getting on the water in any way, shape, or form. So while at the Y we were able to have a swim team, they're still together and they're still doing great. As a matter of fact, we took that swim team onto the Mississippi, which again, people assume at the Mississippi, and while you have to respect all bodies of water, and I don't need to tell you, I'm preaching to the choir, but that's a barrier. If somebody is scared out of their mind to go to a lake, then they're not going to the river, or if they're not going to get in the pool, we're stopped there. So we have to acknowledge this and work through this and understand that programming for some looks differently than programming for others. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Perfect. So just a quick about our mission. What we're trying to do is it's going to be hard. It is hard. We're going to try to change the culture of how people view the outdoor amenities that we have. And we don't have an ocean, and we don't have the highest mountains, but we've got two of the biggest rivers in North America. We have a ton of lakes and a ton of opportunities to paddle, do archery, go hiking, go camping. It's not for lack of options. It's a lack of knowledge and then the barriers that we've discussed. So really one of the things that we want to see, and this is how we'll know if I'm doing my job and if if as a collective River City is working, um, the cultural change. You'll see more people outdoors, and in that you'll see people who you normally don't see together. Because again, if something isn't for me or us, we're just not going to do it. If we don't feel welcome at a lake or the river, we're just not going to do it, which puts us at odds with people who don't look like us. I've been told before, honestly, by some of my African American peers, man, I can't believe you paddleboard. We don't do that. Why not? We can. We should. We have the opportunity. So it's changing the minds and even the hearts of some. So this is just pulled from our website. So one of the cool things about River City Outdoors and our steering committee, we have a ton of knowledge in the room, a ton of knowledge, and all this knowledge that we have and experience is backed up by the Outdoor Foundation. Um, and you can read a little bit more about Thrive Outside. Um, Angie, no worries, no worries. I'll just sing and dance. Um, so again, I hate to read PowerPoints to people, but um, so this is really cool about River City. So Terrain Magazine, we share an office, and I believe it is. Uh, yeah, I think it's one of Missouri's only outdoor publications. So with that, River City, our voice is heard around the state in some instances because they're able to share what's going on. And River City is not just St. Louis proper. It's the surrounding counties, and even I just was in Illinois meeting with somebody in the east side. So this is a regional effort. Um, so so again, we are focused on people who normally don't have access, but we understand that there's people who don't have access for different reasons. Okay, so this is the national network. You can see where the other groups are. If you take a really good look, um, Oklahoma and St. Louis don't necessarily have any large bodies of water other than our rivers, and um, so it's a whole like when you see what's going on in Grand Rapids or the Twin Cities or almost any other place, the programs and the offerings are really, really, really different. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of the other cohorts, and some of the things that they're doing, we're just not going to be able to do. I mean, I can only dream of being able to program with an ocean. I mean, that's mind blowing to me. Um, or being able to do something in the mountains. Uh, and some of these, I want to say the Boulder County, they've been working with Thrive for about 7 years, and their network, which we'll get to that. So this is our national network. We're gonna go down to where our local network, the St. Louis network, but um, they're doing some impressive things, just mind blowing, inspirational. Like from everything from pulling at your heartstrings to literally changing the landscape of how people work together. So they've got great programming, but what's key is that all these different organizations are able to work together almost in lockstep to facilitate programming for youth, families, and communities. So it's really really impressive. Thank you. Perfect timing. So our St. Louis Outdoor Recreation Network. I'm kind of excited about this. So about 2 weeks ago, we had somebody from the Outdoor Foundation and all of our. So currently we have about 77 network partners. The last time I checked the list. Last 2 weeks ago, we had somebody from the Outdoor Foundation and from my organization, and we did a convening of all of our partners. So we got about 40 people there. There was about 60 people there, but 40 people I know from our list who said, "Yeah, we want to be a part of this outdoor recreation network. Let me see what it's about." And basically, the way I was able to identify is I met with different non-for-profits, created a list, got the mayor got her approval, and said, "Hey, we're going to do this." Um, so the convening was the first in-person meeting of all the of everybody in the network, and some of these slides, actually, I think all these this whole deck is from the convening. So I'll use some of this, and some of it we'll just skip past. But um, So and I know that I'm focusing a lot on programming, but we are tackling um, environmental what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Justice. So and that's come since the convening where we're able to really dig our claws deep into environmental justice. We're partnering with a couple of universities, WashU and SLU, and a couple other nonprofits to really tackle that. So we really want to highlight what we have to offer. And you heard me speak to the rivers and to the lakes. So we have, some of you may have heard of Forest Park. We actually have in Forest Park a boathouse in which you don't have to purchase a kayak, but you can kayak. You can run a kayak. You can get on a paddle board, a paddle boat, or a canoe. These are great ways to introduce our youth and other people to paddling. The problem is that it's one of the best kept secrets in the city. Not a lot of people know about it. Um, and through the boathouse, I was able to probably send probably a couple hundred kids who had never really been had a significant experience on the water before. They got to do some paddling in different. Some just stayed in the paddle boats. Others actually paddle boarded with me. So from sitting down to standing up, we did it all. It was really really cool, and we're gonna do a whole lot more next summer. So again, we talked about opportunities, and this is really the crux of the conversation. We have to identify the barriers. And again, different groups have different barriers. Um, I personally don't have a canoe. That's not going to stop me from canoeing because I know about Forest Park. But if people don't even know about Forest Park, that's a pretty easy barrier to remove to get people from non-paddling to paddling, or and even further on in a true enjoyment and appreciation of paddling. Um, so when we look at advocacy, the advocacy is and we do. What's cool is we actually have an attorney who will go to our state capital and advocate. A lot of the other cohorts, and we're not there yet. We're only in like my eighth month, but some of the other cohorts have had bills passed to make what they're doing easier, and I want to say make resources available as well. So you know, maybe year two we're at Jeff City, but everything is in place. And again, we're St. Louis, so we're not thinking about bills to get people outside. We have to first bring that to the table. Um, and obviously laws and things like that is not my expertise. I am not a lawyer, but we do have the infrastructure to really advocate for for change in the way that St. Louisans view and are able to interact with outdoor recreation. We're working with other smaller or small. We're not. I'm the only staff at River City, so um, there's other groups like us, different groups that also, and some of those are targeting with hyper vigilance uh, certain demographics. So an example is black people who hike. I met with them yesterday. They're a small org and certainly could use more resources and more capacity to grow. So and they're doing things that River City isn't doing, to be quite honest. So how do we support them? What does that look like? Um, we're also offering or we will next year, RFPs or small grants. I want to say the amounts are 500, 1,000, and then 3,000. Um, but we're gonna have the processes in place. So if the Boys and Girls Club wants to go on the Mississippi River, well, they can write an RFP for that a very specific trip, and we can make that happen. Okay, so this is a really easy one, and this is going to be pretty quick. Um, so we know transportation is, and this is no lie, guys. So from the convening, transportation, which is one of the hugest barriers, um, and I'm gonna go back. I don't know how many people saw the news, but yesterday one of our high schools there was an incident with a shooter, active shooter, and a child and a teacher got were killed. So interestingly enough, us working with the school so closely is as it, I think this is key as we move forward. And I say all that to say this: we are linked to the school system. I've spoken to a few school leaders, and we went ahead and suspended all trips, so that the district, as a district, can figure out what next steps look like, and they can heal as a district. Um, but transportation has been a big one. Um, Literally, when we were in the convening, a lady came up to me and said, "Hey, I know somebody at First Student, which is who we use," and she said, "I can get you. We can figure the transportation problem out quickly." And I still need to double back. Um, Culturally, we touched on it just a bit. Um, Traditionally, we don't see a lot of, and I'm going to use paddling as an example, because one of my kids said, I was paddle boarding, and one of my kids said, "Mr. Chris, we don't do that. We don't do that." Speaking of course about black people, I said, "Why not? We can. I'm doing it right now." One of the things that really excites me as well is we're creating an equipment library. So currently we have about 50 to 60 phones, um, fishing poles. And so a group can call me. I'm certified to teach fishing. So I'll teach a group fishing, and then they can go out fishing. Again, we want these groups to be self-sustainable in that I don't need to go on a fishing trip with them. I can drop poles and any tackle they might need, and they can go. Um, so that's what we're working on. We don't want to be the program provider for the St. Louis region. We can't. Um, I don't have the capacity personally, and we don't have the staffing for it. But we want all these other groups to have the knowledge, and if they need the equipment, we can give them the equipment. Um, and so this whole process is is educating, because once somebody told me about paddling, I'm able to now share that with the youth, or another adult who wants to get into paddling and bring their youth into the program. So to a large extent, this process is a big education and knowledge exchange and sharing. Um, so these are some of our initiatives, and I'm going to go through them quick because well, yeah, because I am. Um, so all these things we're already doing. Um, uh, and you can see in the bullets, the ways that we want to. Um, and so we share an office with Rivers, golly, Missouri Waterkeeper. I'm sorry, Missouri Waterkeeper. And so they have the infrastructure to do a lot of this educational watershed programming, um, to advocate for our waterways here in Missouri. And we're already doing number two, partnering with schools and youth groups, um, with great success. This is actually the group. This picture is actually the group from the O'Fallon Park YMCA. It's a swim team and some parents. And talking to some of the parents, they weren't quite sure about getting on the Mississippi. And at the end, one of the dads was like, "I can't wait to go again." So slow but steady. Okay, this is just getting people that you normally don't see, cycling, mountain biking. We're really trying to hit as many different program areas or outdoor recreation options. If you don't like paddling, maybe you like biking, or if you don't like that, maybe hiking. We want to give people the full gamut of opportunities. Um, because I'll be honest, I'm not big into bikes. It's not my thing. But there's a lot of people that love it. And one of the cool things that we can do is we do pedal to paddle. So I think last week a school group pedaled up to the Mississippi water, one of the watersheds or a park. They put their bikes in a trailer, and then they got into canoes and they went down the river. And I just think that was really just a great way to spend their day. and it's something totally different. We don't see that. We just don't see that here. Okay, this is one of my favorite initiatives, um, because I'm all about, from being from the Y and the city, I'm all about clubs and groups and people growing together. Uh, so I'll speak to this. Um, one of the one of the things that I found when we started is I was doing a lot of the programming. Um, just again, there's nobody else offering it. The photo you see is a group called Vertical Voyages, and they do tree climbing with youth. So we spent a day doing tree climbing, geocaching, and fishing, and also we did archery. But the thing about the adventure clubs, they are self-run. As far as you have a teacher, a counselor, whatever the position, and they are tasked with, recruitment, planning, and of course, River City is there as a resource. And you, I can set you up at the boathouse. I can do, but you're responsible for your group of children. With our support, absolutely. But um, because there's no way that I could over. I think we've got about 5 or 6 clubs now, and they're not booming, but they're active. Um, but the beauty in that is that these kids can also choose what they want to do, what they want to learn. And with my experience, I'm able to always be there as far as an ear or my 2 cents. Um, and it's just not me. We've got a whole network of outdoor specialists. So, and the clubs are meant to be a long term thing. I refuse to do just one off field trips, um, because it's about growing relationships. And I think in working with youth, the longer the youth is with us, a safe adult in a program, that relationship is going to grow. And from there, you'll find that usually you end up meeting parents and grandparents or whoever the primary caregiver is. Um, Therefore, creating almost a what I would love to think as a lifelong lover of outdoor recreation. Now, we've only been going for 8 months, so I have got no data to prove it. But if it works like it did at the Y with youth in government and the leaders program, I think it'll work with these adventure clubs. Okay, I mentioned this briefly, the gear library, um, and we're still working on it. Like in a perfect world, we would have tents, kayaks, canoes, sleep. I don't know how we do sleeping bags, but we would have a fully stocked gear library, and we have access to like REI and a few other groups. It's just getting those relationships and making that ask. But also, I don't want to go get a bunch of gear that nobody's going to use or need. And then of course storage is going to be an issue. I just can't keep a bunch of. I can keep the fishing poles in my office. I cannot keep kayaks in my office. So we need to strategize on where we're going to keep the gear and what kind of gear it is that we're going to have. I have a pretty good idea, but remember, even if you want to go kayaking, you might have a truck. You can't get a kayak in a truck all the time. So are we going to do inflatable kayaks? That's a whole nother. So there's layers to this, and we have to figure it out. So yeah, if you want to borrow a canoe or a kayak, you kind of need to have some gear to begin with. Or are we going to rent? Or are we going to get trailers? I would love somebody to donate a couple trailers. But if you have a car, how are you going to do it? So it's removing all these barriers. So at the end of the day, my final answer is always yes. Yes, we can do that. Yes, 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 yes.
Well, I guess we'll pause there. This is kind of some of the next slides. I meant to put in a question slide there. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and we have some time for discussions. And if you have any questions for Chris, you're welcome to unmute yourself and just ask them out loud, or you'll see like a little raise your hand. We can call on you that way.
Chris, I wanted to just say quick thanks, and also if you could talk a little bit about continuing, so that a lot of people are trying to get kids out, and the fatal flaw is that they get them out once, and there isn't a system to encourage them to get out a second, and third, or fourth time. Is that just like you're trying to see what sticks, or you
You
have
know,
like a program, or any
so
about how to keep it going? Kind of would be appreciated.
so what I found again through my career is that it's important to continue these one-off trips like I spoke of. Don't They're nice in the moment, but they're not going to help you build those relationships. I think, you know, so far the I took a girls school, Hawthorne Girls School. I did a quick brief 1 hour paddling tutorial on dry land, and then that Friday we took two groups of about 40 girls apiece to the lake, and they went from paddleboarding to canoeing to kayak. They did everything, and hopefully in the spring, the next trip is going to be on the river, the Mississippi River. So there's a continuum. I didn't ask these girls what they wanted to do. The teacher said, "Hey, Chris, we want to do something different," and I this is what I came up with. Um, Unfortunately, the St. Louis Public Schools, they don't do any kind of water activities, no aquatics, no lakes, no rivers, no anything. There was an incident. Um, so yeah, I think being intentional about relationship building is key, and having a having a strategy, having a plan. But you'll also hear me say, if at all possible, let the kids choose what they can do.
Chris, when you mentioned the the story of taking some people out recently on, I think, the Mississippi, and then having one of the parents even say, like, "Wow, I can't wait to go again." I think about that, and is almost like a way of like reaching out to those families and not just like maybe just the young person or just the older
Right.
person, to really help build those connections as well to the to water and the different resources and the outdoors. And I see in the chat Lee shared, I love the idea of gear libraries. I created one for BLM California, Bureau of Land Management. And we use sleeping bag liners that she takes home and washes to meet OSHA's rules. So that's a good
Thank you. Thank you.
tip. And then I see a hand up. Yeah, go ahead, Lee. Lee, I see you're unmuted, but for some reason we don't hear you. Maybe you can share it in the chat and I can read it out. Hmm. Any other questions, observations, things to share, maybe about what you're doing or things that you found that are working? Kind of like Lee's tip.
I have a question, Chris. When you are thinking about extending the gear library to paddling, how might you do that? You can't just let somebody take a canoe and go wherever for some period of time. You want to make it easy, but you also want to make it safe.
Right, right, right. So I wouldn't allow somebody just off the street to. It would be a a relationship. They know me, or they've been advised by somebody else. So it might be a friend of mine who loves paddling, but they're expensive. He doesn't have a place to store it. Sure, and I would we it will be just like checking out a library book, because also I'm not giving you this. I'm going to loan it to you, and I certainly don't want to lose a couple of kayaks. The program's over then. So we have to come up with some real deal ways to make sure that we get our equipment back, and we keep it in good working order. Um, so like I said, the fishing poles are pretty easy. Here, take five, bring me back five. And with the fishing, I'm usually working with either the Boys and Girls Club or the Boys and Girls Club or a school, and I can find them. So I think when we get to the point, I think you would have to be not intimately, but you would have to have a pretty good idea, working idea of what River City Outdoors is about, and that goes back to the education of us saying, "Hey, this is what we do," um, and maybe the conditions for rental, or a tutorial, and then maybe a trip, a trip with some experts.
I think Lee's been trying to unmute, so she's presenting by chat instead.
Yeah, I'll read it out in case anyone is joining by phone and can't see the chat. So, Lee mentioned, I was just going to say that I was giving a talk at UCR last weekend about allyship in the outdoors. And this lady wanted to get into kayak, and I shared Diversify Whitewater and the LA Kayak Club. But then went to their About website, and it was of a white dude making a face in whitewater, and it was not the most inviting image. Images matter. I'm going to follow up and suggest changing the photo.
Till Leah, absolutely. One of the conversations that we had, and I'm gonna be honest, we talk about race and equality and diversity a little bit different um, here in St. Louis. We just do. Um, Not me personally, but the larger conversation. Um, um, but I mean, yeah, you have to be honest. And one of those conversations was in a meeting just like this, when the question was raised, how come black people don't, I want to say, swim or something like that. It was water related, and so we definitely make sure. A lot of times people will do things unintentionally, but the ramifications are a problem, to be quite honest. When you say that you're going to serve a certain population, or you can serve, or you will serve, or you do serve, and then all your literature is not of those people, right there, that's not for us. That's not for us. That's what it says.
I also see Lee shared a link to the Los Angeles Kayak Club and said the club is great with lots of wonderful people, but this did not show up through their website. And then I also saw um, Lilia mentioned, I don't have any questions, but just want to say, way to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris, I think there are a lot of organizations that want to become more diverse, not just because other people have told them, but that's what they want to do, and they almost don't know how because their circles are a bunch of white people. So how do you like I don't know any black people. How do I become more diverse? Any just suggestions? Because I think there are a number of people or like clubs or neighborhood organizations that are like they want to do something, they kind of don't know how to start.
Well, I would say to that, you have to be intentional, and sometimes that's awkward and it's uncomfortable. But one of the things about DEI is get ready to get uncomfortable. Um, I struggle with the same thing because a lot there's not. I mean, there is some, but the amount of outdoor recreation that our kids see, they're not doing it. So a reference to paddling will almost always, well, we don't. That's not for us. People need to. It's more like, hey guys, this is for everyone. This is an invitation, and it looks and sounds differently when it comes from me versus you or Angie or whoever. We just have to be really cognizant of, and again, I'll use the word intentional about how we approach this, because this this the reason that, in my opinion, a portion of the reason that we don't aren't waterbound are because of things that happened years and years ago. So there's a great amount of trauma, and there's a lot of angst when we get to talking about this. Um, in the very first management roundtable I came to was a doozy of a conversation. But we have to keep having those. And I think what happens is people say, okay, I can, they start counting. I've got 8 black people. That makes us diverse, right? Who are the decision makers? When you make decisions, is it a white led decision? Was I involved in the decision making process? It's the same thing when you're asking kids who who wants to do something outside. What do you want to do? Um, I think we say it all the time. Representation matters, right? So again, being intentional in our words and our thoughts.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions or comments? I'm not sure where everyone is. Daryl's from Arkansas somewhere. We've got a caller 01 from someplace.
Well, while you're thinking of any last minute questions that you might want to ask Chris or anyone else in the group, just want to share that we do have some other river management roundtables coming up. Our next one's going to be on November 8th, the second Tuesday of November. Same time, same place. And that one we're going to be um, it's called Talking Trash: Approaches to Intercept and Remove Ocean-Bound Plastic and Debris. And that's with Mary Lee from NOAA and Glenn from Fish and Wildlife. And they're going to be kind of talking about how rivers are conduits of waste sometimes. So join us for that. And then also at the end of November on the 22nd, we're going to be having a roundtable, and the title is The African American Heritage Water Trail, Connecting Communities to the Little Calumet River. And apologize if I just said the name of that river wrong. So many rivers. It's hard to know how to pronounce every single one. So, just wanted to let you know about that. You can find more about the event details and the registration at our webpage. I'll put a link here in the chat in a moment. Also, I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this today, so if you'd like to go back and reference anything that Chris mentioned, or if you'd like to check out any of our other previous river management roundtables, we have a whole bunch of them. I think this number needs to be updated to over 70 recordings now. So you can go check those out on our river management channel. And again, I'll put a link to that as well. And then, as well as just keep an eye out on upcoming training and events we've got. And then lastly, we would love to hear your thoughts about today. And I'm going to put a link to a short survey that we'd really appreciate if you
Mm.
could uh, fill that out. So I'm going to stop sharing again and allow some time for any last minute questions while I put all these links in. And yeah, any last questions here? And I see, thanks, Chris. I see that you put your contact info in the chat for anyone who might want that. So that's great.
Any parting comments, Chris, or
Uh,
advice to someone who has been inspired and then they're saying, now what can I do at home?
I think it's just it's a broken record. Intentionality is huge. It it's equal to the power of yes, which are two of my big things: the power of yes and intentionality. Um, that's just hey, thanks for coming out and listening to me ramble on for an hour or so. Much appreciated. And yeah, I think my email on the deck.
Um, we can add it, or we can add it to the email. So I did mention in the chat, we'll send out a copy of this recording to everyone, and we can put your email with that and
Yeah,
PDF copy of the slides.
I didn't realize I was talking to everyone when I responded to Leah, but she put in everyone too. So anyway, I think that's all for me.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for joining us today. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, and I hope everything works out with the flooding and yeah, and keep up the great work.
Thanks a lot.
So
I'll talk to you guys.
take care. Thanks, everyone.